Well, hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Weirdly Magical podcast with Jen and Lou. And on this episode, we're going to be looking at the energy of the Virgo new moon that takes place at 12 p.m., September the 17th. Wow. Is that exact time? I hadn't even noticed that it was exact time. But anyway, that's 12 p.m. London time, Universal time, time, by the way. And oh wow, and it's at 25 degrees exactly of Virgo and 0 minutes. So we have it on the exact hour and at an exact degree. That's pretty unusual as well. Anyway, before we dive into that, I would like to mention that we have a Patreon, patreon.com/weirdly magical. Thank you, as always, to those that are supporting the running costs of this podcast. And if you would like to support us, please go to patreon.com/weirdly magical. Just $3 a month to help the running costs. And yeah, let's introduce ourselves and then we'll talk about this lunation and the energy around it. So Jen, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Duchene, jenduchene.com. I am an Akashic healer and reader. I do readings. I also do numerology, and I'm the creator of the Illuminating Journey Cards. And I teach classes, run a group, and all of those things. So yes, I guide my clients to activate their soul's true choice so they can live liberated.
Awesome. And I am Louise Eddington. I am an astrologer, soul astrologer. I'm also a writer, the author of 2 books, Modern Astrology and The Complete Guide to Astrology, which I'm very excited to say is going to be reviewed in the biggest issue of the year of the Mountain Astrologer magazine, which is amazing for me. That's the December-January issue, by the way, if anybody wants to buy it. And I help my clients break the chains that keep them tethered to an ordinary life so that they can live the life that they never imagined before. So I'll tell you where to find me later, and Jen will tell you where to find her at the end. So, but Google our names, basically. this new moon. So I think it's important that I talk about, we're recording this on September the 3rd, though I wrote August the 3rd several times this morning. So it's like kind of the energy. And between recording, we've just had the Pisces full moon, which was kind of mind-blowing to my mind, or soul-blowing, whatever you want to call it. Many people have said they feel like they've been lifted into a new dimension or something. But between now and the new moon, we have so much happening. We have Pallas Athena stationing direct on September the 5th, and we'll probably mention her. Venus will move into Leo on September the 6th. Mars will station retrograde on September the 9th. Jupiter will station direct on September the 12th. Venus will square Uranus on September the 15th, so we'll still be square to Uranus pretty much when on this new moon. And then on the 17th, we have the new moon. And as I said, this new moon is at 12 p.m. exactly, London time. So for that's 5 a.m. Utah time where I am, 4 a.m. for Jen in on the West Coast Pacific time. You can adjust, it's easier to adjust times when it's exactly on the hour. And, and the new moon is exactly at 25 degrees Virgo in square aspect to the lunar nodes, which makes this a real pivot point and turning point in our collective evolution, if you like. The new moon is also in aspect to Mars and Eris in Aries, Mars newly retrograde, and is also in aspect to Saturn in Capricorn. And because Saturn and Pluto are so close, that means also in aspect to that. And Saturn is slowing down to station direct, so Mars and Saturn are going to start moving back towards each other very soon. So that makes that aspect, or the aspects to Mars and Saturn, very strong from this new moon too. There's one other aspect pattern we will be talking about, and it's one I've only recently started looking at, thanks to Anne Ortley, and it's the Thor's hammer. So I'll talk more about that as we go, but it's a powerful new moon, particularly because of the square to the nodes, I would say. And so, Jen, do you want to give your overall first impressions?
Yes. And then we can do the cards.
Oh, let's do the cards first.
So we do the cards first? Okay, you want to show yours first?
Sure. So my card is actually the completion card, which is the Four of Wands, which is Aries. Okay. And that feels very right for this new moon, to be honest. This is this card is a reminder that before we can really move forward in new directions that have meaning, which is a very Virgo kind of word. Virgo likes to be useful and have meaning. It's important to complete that which we have already set in motion. So this is really more of a call to complete things before this new moon, and it's Venus in Aries, which is our values, and Aries in the sign of I am. And of course Aries is very important at the moment because Mars is in Aries, and incidentally, as we record this, Venus is square to Mars, so we're Venus here in the sign of Mars in this card. So we are completing something. We're completing something regarding our values and our relationships. We're completing something so that we can move forward and pioneer and start new things. So that's my card.
Awesome. And I have the 14 Soul Portal from the Illuminating Journey cards. And interesting, the colors kind of match a little bit of what your card is. So this card is a card of, the colors, so interesting. So very much the yellow, the red, the green,
Yeah, that dark green.
Interesting, yeah, very interesting. So this card is very much a card of, if you look at the figure here, is kind of looking at that circle, which could match with the circle Lou has, this idea of being, looking at the world we've created, the sphere of creation, and kind of almost the sense of spinning the card, right? I'm going to spin the wheel, and running out from below is what could be blood, right? The bleeding and the realization of what we've committed to, the canary, the signal that things are changing, that we need to pay attention. This, the tightrope, the bicycle and the tightrope above, it's this need to, even a ram, so that's interesting, that whole thing with the Aries thing, is this need to focus on what it is we're doing, something new, something challenging, and something that is absolutely necessary at this time. So it definitely is a new dynamic, a new system being created, a taking in a kind of like setting, and makes me think about Virgo, this idea of setting vows in a new way, like going, this is what I'm focused on, this is what I want to do, this is what needs to happen. So that's kind of what this card is basically saying, or what it feels like.
And then this one too, I think, really, because it's this, you know, this is saying focus on turning the wheel, like you're,
Right.
you know, it's focusing on moving forward. And I keep getting that message over and over with, you know, when I do recordings at the moment, that with so much chaos in the world, we have to come into center to this circle. You know, we've both got the circle.
Yeah.
My card, for those that can't see it, has the circle with the dove for Venus around it, and then the ram. So we both have the ram for Aries. But in the middle is the sun, and the sun is our core self. So over and over, Jen's message, my message is to kind of move away from, not look at the chaos and just focus on where you're going, kind of thing, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
I think, yes, this is a call to, within the focus or in the storm is the eye of the storm, which is the stillness, the place of stillness.
I used that expression twice this week already.
Place of stillness. So it's very interesting because I was telling people in my monthly review and the people in my group that after the Pisces moon, for the first 2 weeks, we need to be immersed in the integration of what is being, this completion, before we go into creating. We have to be sure of what we're creating. And this new moon here, this Virgo new moon, on September 17th, is the kind of call to us to take up arms. And I don't mean like, oh, we're going to war in that traditional old way, but much more the energy of being this, you know, virgin warrior, and the true meaning of virgin, right? The true meaning of warrior is to stand for what we believe in and to move in that direction without stopping because there's people that don't believe in what we believe or whatever. It's just like we just need to focus and we just need to move forward. So fascinating, because the 17, of course, is the number of success. It is the energy of the 8, the 1 and 7. It's about being focused on something new through the wisdom of our own soul, or what we realize when we talk about the values. And this is a 13 month, I talked about before. So 13 is the number of the divine feminine. It's a number that we've talked about that is definitely going to impact us and is impacting us. It's shifting our focus. It's breaking it down, the old, in very abrupt ways, just like we feel overwhelmed. That's a good thing, even though it feels like a shit thing, because when you are in overwhelm, you come to that place we're talking about, that you just surrender. You surrender to, I can't deal with this, so the only thing I can deal with is to come back to my center. What do I know? What do I need to know? What do I value? So in the noise, we find that place of peace and center. That's very Virgoian. It's also the 13 adds up to a 4. So we have the double 4 impact this month, which is the 4 of the year, 2020, 4 of the month. The double 4, also very Virgoan, because the ultimate thing about the 4 is to create structure. We are creating a new structure, and it can be a crude structure, but it is a system we're creating so we can move forward. I don't know what to do in a world that is in upheaval. So if I know who I am and I determine my movements, I can do it. So it's this sense with the 17, with the 13. We also have a 13, let's see, it's a 17 day, so 8, and then we have the 4, and what's that? 4, 13. Oh, 3, sorry. So we have a 21. So it's very interesting because we have the 2, 4, and 8 activated this moon because of the year and the date, which means all manifesting energies are activated. So we are here to manifest our own destiny. We are creating. This is the time to create. It's the spider energy, the energy of Lou's card that looks like a spider web. It's this energy of coming back to realizing we are the one we've been waiting for. Okay, I have to make up my own mind. I have to do what I need to do to go forward. And we have to be able to apply ourselves and just keep going, be very devoted to the journey. That's the 8, where we just push through obstacles. We're not listening to all that stuff that people say isn't possible. We're just keep going. And the 3, the 21 of the universal date, gives us this energy of being emotionally invested in loving ourselves and expressing ourselves, because this is what this is. That's our guide. In order to change the world, we have to accept that we have value, and we have to stop looking at other people to tell us we have value, and we have to just trust. I have it, I got to do it, you know, this needs to be done. It's kind of like the vision I see is like, you need food and you got a plot of land and you have some seeds, and even if you don't know how to do it, you just kind of have to figure it out because you need to eat, right? And so that's kind of the message here. And also looking at the 25s and the exact numbers, even the hour, you know, I know it's London time and it's somewhere else is different, but those zeros that are giving us this breath of life, this new energy to be inspired, remembering 2020, we have 2 zeros, but also the 12, the exact thing is that 21, I was talking about the universal date, the 3, that it's all this repetitive energy that's reminding us of who we are. And the 25, the exact, again with the zeros, amazing. The 25, again, is this energy of being committed to your journey, the journey of your own wisdom, right? It's very important to understand that you're not going to get the wisdom from someone else. You get it through trial and error and being willing to be a fool instead of needing to be right. Right, and that's kind of the shadow of Virgo.
And interesting, you said the word fool, because the zeros, of course, of the degrees and the 12 is the fool card in the tarot, because it's 0. But I did want, as you were talking, I was like, oh, I hadn't noticed that, as I always do. And and it's on September the 17th, and both Mercury rules the new moon in Virgo. Mercury is at 17 degrees of Libra in exact almost square, like by 1 minute, to Jupiter in Capricorn, and Jupiter will have just turned direct. And that's this cardinal energy of initiating change. I kind of think there's probably going to be some big kind of news or announcement, or you're going to get some big ideas about how you are going to create and build this new your new structures of life, really. I think it feels like, because Jupiter has been retrograde all this time, Pluto and Saturn are not far off turning direct. We've spent this whole summer with all these major retrogrades really kind of figuring out what to do with this new world we're moving into, because things are not going to go back to exactly how they were. It's not how things work. But that 17 is echoed again exactly by the ruler of the new moon squaring Jupiter. And that means some big ideas, big information, big plans as well. You know, it's a very creative aspect, because Mercury's in Libra and Mercury loves Libra. It'll be like coming up with all these ideas to create balance and harmony. So that's interesting that's at that 17 too, that Jen talked about.
Right, right. And also thinking about news or understanding that your mind is shifting, right? So this is an opportunity to hear something, to be informed of something, whether it's shocking or not, that is basically going to free you from the need to behave in a certain way. Like, oh, I got to be obedient, I got to follow the rules. And it's like, okay, well, forget about that, because clearly this whole concept or construct of rules is a bunch of lies. And so that revelation that is coming with this is the sense of, to get where I need to go, I have to take the journey. I have to push myself through. So I think that Lou is right. We're going to feel the expansion of our imagination, but also the expansion of our hearts, the beneficiary or the beneficence of our own being, our own connection to God. And Virgo is another, there's that energy in Virgo that is about, you know, our sacred self, right? Like the Virgin, the original meaning is
one,
connected.
one who is whole unto herself.
Right, which means connected to the earth and to the galaxies and not needing approval or permission or anything from anyone else, which doesn't mean you're not working in unison with others, but we all work as equals, as opposed to, well, I'm lesser, or I'm the slave and I'm going to stand behind you, right? Moving away. So whatever's going to be happening between now and this moon and on this moon will be that kind of opening up of your mind and going, wait a minute, what am I doing, right? Or what have I been doing?
Our minds are being kind of blown wide open, if you like. And, you know, of course, Mercury, I talked about Mercury being the ruler of the Virgo, the new moon. Of course, Mercury is also the ruler of Gemini, which is the North Node, and which means that's our collective Dharma or karmic potential. And the moon is square to the nodes. So Mercury kind of rules this whole thing, you know, and our creative mind is on the go. So when I say news, you know, I know I don't mean kind of the news. I
Although it could be, right?
It could be, yeah, but it could be some massive news globally, but it could also just be how you interpret the news, how you read it, how you listen to it now, which news you choose to listen to, because there's a lot of variation out there, let's say.
Right. Well, it could also be somebody saying something to you and it's suddenly landing in a whole different way and you going like, wait, what just happened? Right.
That North Node in Gemini, we're definitely being asked to open our ears and our mind to change. These are mutable signs. You know, the new moon in Virgo's a mutable sign. The South Node in Sagittarius, that's mutable. North Node in Gemini is mutable. That means change. That means change your mind, change your thoughts, change your beliefs, and just be open. Listen to others. Maybe if it is about the news in what's happening in the world, maybe try listening to something you don't normally listen to. If you listen to MSNBC, try going to listen to Fox News, God forbid. But even so, I actually do it every I actually do go and listen to Fox News every now and again just to hear what they're saying. Because how do you
Right.
know, how can you take in all the ideas too if you don't
Right.
know what the other side is saying, if that's your side, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a good point. Listen to other points of view. And I think what's also very important is how to listen to your own point of view, because so many of us don't even know what we want. We don't even know what we think because we have been filled with other people's ideas. And most of those people have been filled with ideas that are not theirs either. So this revelation and this whole point of the COVID and everything is this idea of bringing us back to point zero, where we like, oh, all those beliefs were just made up. They're, you know, they don't matter, right? It's immaterial. So, being the observer so that you can move forward. So if listening to news things is something that you want to get a broader perspective as an observer, not as somebody who is being activated by what people are saying, right? So take care of your own health. Virgo is about health, right? It's often can bring disease,
Mhm.
all those kinds of things. This whole mutable thing could signal more of the COVID, more of those,
Or,
and
or the virus mutating, or
right, and new ways to combat, right?
new,
That we've got to think of that,
yeah,
right?
new treatments, new all that kind of stuff.
Right. It's like all of a sudden when we're looking at the world from a different place, like we were stationary and stagnant here, now we're moving over there and we're like, oh my God, I didn't know there was all this around about life. And that's what can happen, right? And then suddenly we realize there are things we can do. There are cures we can take in. There is all this stuff that is possible as we're going to move more into this earthiness of of remedies, maybe that were old remedies that are, of the earth, that will come back. Because again, to me, this is the establishing of the female reign, in the sense of the earth, or whatever you want to call a female, the intuitive side.
And earth medicine as well.
Right, that's right. Earth medicine. This is Virgo, and this is the zeros are kind of like going, this is it. This is that moment, to grasp the moment, right? To not let this moment slip you by because you're not paying attention, because you're not focused on these little steps that you need to take in order to get where you're going.
And this new moon, it's a bit wide, the aspect, but it is pretty much opposite Neptune as well, which kind of makes it a mutable grand cross in a way. And Neptune in Pisces is connection with source, with intuition, with inner knowing, all that kind of energy. So that's still it is about not listening just to the news, not just to what somebody out there says. It's also about tuning in and listening to what's right for you. So there's a lot of that too. And what Jen was saying about Virgo is so true. And correct me if I'm wrong, but 25/7 is kind of the most spiritual number, right?
Right, it is highly spiritual. It's the number that kind of switches on our kind of spirituality, in a sense, or our ownership of our own spirituality. So yes, you're right.
And Virgo is all about meaning, usefulness, service, serving the world, how we can structure and analyze our life so that we can make it work for ourselves and to serve others. It's Virgo is a amazing sign, really. It's to do with the harvest. Of course, we're in harvest season in the northern hemisphere. Apologies to the southern hemisphere, but
Well, they're beginning, they're on the opposite
yes,
side of the
yeah,
harvest,
they're
right?
beginning the planting and stuff. So it's still to do with earth and the like. And Virgo's an interesting sign for other reasons. I always think it's Chiron. I associate with both Virgo and Sagittarius, actually. And Jen mentioned at the start that we're in a 13-year, was it?
13 month.
Month.
Yeah.
Month. And over there in Aries again, because our identities, we're just being asked to kind of really find out who we really are with all this Aries stuff that's been going on for so long, and now Mars retrograde in Aries on by the time of this new moon. We have Black Moon Lilith, the original woman, there at 13 degrees, right next to Chiron. I really feel like herbalism, things like that are going to come back in a lot more in a bigger way. And it's not, but I think it's not to decry all big pharma. So I'm not doing that because, of course, a lot of pharmaceuticals are created. Well, they're all created from earth, from herbs and things like that. But I kind of feel it more coming together, an integration of kind of the naturopathic and the allopathic medicine world. I'm not anti-allopathic at all, like some people are, but I do think some of it has become separated from the connection with the seasons and the earth, and vice versa. Some of the naturopathic world has rejected the allopathic world so much that they've become separatist too. So I think that a lot of this is starting to come together. People are realizing that we kind of need both. You know, we need to look after the earth, we need to look after our bodies and support our immune systems, but we also need treatment for real illnesses, things like that.
Right, and I think that this whole point to me of the Virgo energy is this kind of the Piscean energy is like the collapse of everything, right? In a sense, it's all watery, it's all collapsing, everything rising. It's the end.
Yeah.
And Virgo is kind of the energy that drives the beginning, in a sense, right? Because it's the kind of collective, or the collective energy of not in the same way Aries is, but it's this very kind of earthy energy of organizing and using resources in a
And
different way.
I mean, Virgo's associated with handcrafts and things, so it's very
Right,
about making and creating and
right. And it's also about unity, right?
yes,
Sorry, I missed you. What did you say?
and manufacturing.
Oh, right, right. Because manifest is hand, like manifesting. It's all about the hands, right? So we manifest with things like Virgo because Virgo helps us to make things real, all right? Our ideas that have come through Pisces or Neptune, our imagination that's been awoken is made real through Virgo. So it's the dirt of the earth in some ways, you know, with that kind of with Taurus there,
Yeah.
and just understanding that this is that energy of the divine feminine energy, the energy of our imagination that is now brought into being. And so we create unity because we've been polarized. So how do we create unity? By bringing together two sides. Instead of rejecting one or the other, we go, how do we do it together? Just like you were talking about the medicine, that's going to happen in so many ways by us coming together and going, this is the bigger picture. This is what we want. We want to be healthy, right? So what do we need to do to be healthy, as opposed to arguing about what works, what doesn't work, this is right, this is wrong, right? It's much more like, I want to have certain things and I want to have them made of the earth, that they are really good for us, as opposed to genetically modified, etc. Although I'm sure we'll have some of those things. Um, but looking at that, what is the bigger picture and why do we need it, right? And one of the reasons I'm opposed to genetically modified things and all of that is because it modifies our bodies, it changes us. So I'm not really in favor of those things. I rather have real things, to me, right? Things that haven't been modified. But I'm sure there's going to be some of each, and we will go forward with it because this is just the way it is. But I also wanted you to talk a little bit about that Thor's hammer, because I feel like with this idea of Thor's hammer or Uranus being the hammer, right? That 10 of the one, right?
Uranus is basically this is also referred to the Thor's hammer as a fist of God. Okay, and if you think about Thor's hammer in the myth or in the Marvel movies, for like it kind of gets thrown down. It kind of causes this mass, like everything kind of gets thrown all over the place, and then it returns to automatically, like a boomerang, returns to Thor's hand. Interestingly, Thor's hammer in the myth was not intended for him, and so he had to wear an iron glove, I think it was, to protect himself from the hammer that he wielded, because it's so powerful, because it's God's hammer. Okay. And this is in Taurus, in the sign of the earth, basically, in the manifest world. So it feels like Uranus is shaking everything up, and is this hammer is getting thrown, and where the impact is in the chart, it's kind of a triangle that goes out, is to the south node in Sagittarius, which is our old rigid beliefs, dogma, all that kind of stuff, and it goes right to the new moon as well. So our old beliefs are being shaken up so that we really create this new beginning with just we're going I think our perceptions with this Thor's hammer, we had 3 in the full moon, by the way, that was just gone. So our perceptions are being blown open, is what my feeling is. Uranus, I always think of as the higher mind, kind of makes the connections. It's very astrological, because it pulls in the messages from the different gods of the planets, if you like. It just feels like we're going to get these amazing awakenings, but some of it might feel quite shocking. Um,
Right. So it's very interesting because, of course, Uranus is still at 10 degrees
mm,
and 10, 15. So to me, what it feels like is with this kind of movement, because Uranus is the portal of the ethers, like all the things, the ideas and possibilities that we have not seen yet. It's kind of like it's just coming into, if you think about it, coming into the hammer, moving through the hammer, and just kind of exploding this metal out into the world. It's very interesting because, like in Qigong or Chinese medicine, they talk about as we move into the fall, into autumn, certainly on the northern hemisphere, if they call it, it's metal energy. Autumn is metal energy. So it's really interesting that, we have that, because this is that sense of slicing through, slicing through the crap. It's just like, this is it. Like, it's a sense of dismemberment. It's like, losing our the parts of ourselves that have kind of held us, bound us to a certain kind of struggle or identity that is not needed anymore. And certainly we know that we're moving away from organized religion, because so much of organized religion has been not so much about the connection to God as it has been, or to the earth, as it has been a kind of servitude to the people that run it. Like, you will obey me, you'll bow down to me, you'll do what I want. All of the stuff that has created our frustration, right? So it's kind of like with this hammer coming, it almost feels like that's all just gonna, kind of break apart, and there's going to be pieces and we're going to have to deal with it. However, there's that opportunity to go, oh, I don't need that. I don't need to bow down to another human being who says they represent God, right?
It's all been about control, yeah, before, but
Right,
control is being kind of smashed wide open as with
right.
this almighty hammer. And Uranus is invention and innovation too. So with all that we've talked about, Mercury and Uranus and things, this new moon is all about innovation, new ideas, new information. It's quite astounding, and breaking away from the old dogma. And the new moon is also in trine aspect to retrograde Saturn in Capricorn, almost exactly. They're both at 25 degrees. And of course, retrograde Saturn in Capricorn has been reviewing all the rules and the institutions. And so this is all saying, like, just make not make your own rules up, but live by your own rules.
Well, in a crumbling system, the beauty is we do need to make our own rules first in order, like what, that's why we were talking about.
I don't mean like fanciful, like
But I don't think it doesn't really matter, right? Because the world is wide open. You can make your own rules. But the thing that is important is that it's about what you value, right? So it's when it's the things you value, then you find the tribe or the people or the system that you can work with, knowing you don't need to throw your hat in the ring about, it's like, okay, it's a whole package, it's a package deal. Like, forget about the package deal. Just like, no, I want this. You're kind of cherry picking, right? I want this and I want this and I want this. And I don't need to agree with everyone, because this is that opportunity to truly understand what it means to be virgin, to be whole unto yourself. That means you honor your own opinions, you honor your own uh, intuition. You can still be kind to others, and
yeah.
you can still understand they have their own opinions, but let's move away from that need to dominate each other, or to be subservient to somebody. That whole system that doesn't work, that stops us from,
Hierarchical stuff as well.
right,
I think
exactly.
there has to be this hierarchy.
Right, right. Everyone has wisdom. So this is again that circle, is kind of in community, in circle, knowing everyone is equal. That's the power of a circle. Is there is no point in the circle where one has more influence than another. Right.
And
And
sorry,
sorry.
as Jen said, it's about what we value, and And Uranus is in Taurus, and with that's Venus ruled, and is in square aspect to Venus, which is in Leo. And Venus is conjunct Vesta, the flame, and in Leo, that is the sign of the heart. And this is about really tuning into your heart and really finding what you value, what fills your heart, what gives you most joy, and not doing anything else, basically. It's letting go of
Right,
the should.
right.
Yeah.
It's like this is the whole thing about the Vesta, the flame, the Vestal virgins, they were the original earth keepers.
Mhm.
And that was kind of stolen from them, right? The flame that they kept going, and then they had all this sacred wisdom and knowledge. So the sacred wisdom and knowledge that we can cultivate within us is linked to the earth, the signs, the material things or materia that creates those sacred things is so powerful. So remembering that this is about coming back to who we are, right? Becoming who we are, like underneath all these layers that we have um, lied about so that we could be accepted, so that we could be safe. And I think that whole thing with this thing with Venus and Vesta there in Leo is the reminder that we are safe. Like we are the keeper of the flame. Through our values, we keep the flame, and we uh, burn away anything that can kind of muddy that water or break us away from our true freedom, that our true safety, right? Because if we know we're safe, and we can trust that no matter what, we're connected to the earth and to source, we don't need to rely on other humans to keep us safe, right? We don't need to give away our power so that we will be safe.
Yeah, absolutely. Whew. It's
I
quite
know, it's powerful, very powerful. It's also that whole thing there with Mars and Eris,
oh, yeah, yeah.
coming back together. Um,
And being in an inconjunct or quincunx aspect to the new moon. and and of course, Mars, well, we're on September the 17th. Mars will have been retrograde for 8 days by the time of this new moon, approximately, just over a week. And he's heading back to square Saturn, Pluto, then and Jupiter again. Yes, he does. But more importantly for this, he's coming back to conjoin Eris, and a fellow astrologer who I'm friends connected with on Facebook, he described Eris as cancellation. And it kind of made me laugh because cancel culture's become such a big thing, and and it kind of fits for Eris actually because she's like, you're you know she's canceling kind of this the people like Zuckerbergs and Amazon and all that kind of stuff. These extremely wealthy, because she's showing up how utterly corrupt all this system is. Not necessarily the people themselves. I think it's beyond the people themselves. I'm sure they've all got their good qualities, but it's this wealth thing. The
when you say that, you sound like Trump.
do I?
You know that thing.
What did
Well, they're good people, Um,
I didn't mean it.
I know, but I couldn't help saying that. It's like that, when we say these things now, we like, oh yeah, like good. Oh, they're good people too.
Yeah, but maybe he's an
Yes, but they are. Like, I'm not arguing with you about that. It's just funny.
But it's kind of like the stock market has reached all-time highs, but it's five companies that are keeping that stock market propped up.
Right, it's inflated. To me, what it feels like with this, and I think that's a great way of putting it, that, Eris canceling is, well, actually, they're twins. So Mars and Eris are twins, right? So they're two sides of whatever it is that we feel is our thing to be at war about,
Yeah.
right? So it's kind of canceling the ego in a sense, because if we think about Mars being renovated, right, in a sense, like even Mars has been hijacked, like all of these different, you know, planetary beings have been hijacked, or their identities have been stolen from them by the patriarchy, right? And all of these things, like Mars is, you know, tough and all of that, that Marlboro man. But of course, there is, they are meant to work together. And so this whole idea of the two of them coming together in kind of like in this way of going, yeah, we're taking back who we are, right? So we're canceling the ego, the hubris, this idea that because you think you're a big deal, you can convince everyone. And to me, like I can, like now, when I look at Trump, like I think it's really interesting because such a great example to us of what's happening. But he's still on the same old shtick, right? He's still doing the things that worked, that he knows about or has worked, right?
Yeah.
And he's kind of climbing up that mountain, like kind of backwards, slipping down, like it's just like it's not working, right? You know, even if it does convince certain people and they manage to, you know, whatever, uh, and get through, it's just people are seeing beneath all of this stuff. They're seeing that it's just a show, that there's no heart. It's just about trying to destroy the other. It isn't about trying to, you know, do good or contribute in a healthy way. So to me, that's, and I think that's what you were saying, I don't know, but like that's kind of how I feel about these people. I don't have any problem with them having money, doing their thing, but it's this part where they removed from this idea of humanity, and they just kind of, you
And
know,
it's more about the structure of our society. If
right,
people or these companies and these individuals can gain so much wealth, even in a pandemic when companies, small companies are, you know, going bust at a great rate of knots, top five companies.
right. But then on the other hand, there's probably some companies that are doing very well that are small. I think the key here is that we have contributed as individuals to the society because we carry a belief system that, you know, it's them against us. And that to me is the key here between Eris and Mars coming together, is like, aha, it's not them against us, right? This is that unification in a sense.
My point, that it's not really so much the people that it's them against us. It's just our society is structured so that this can happen.
Right.
It doesn't mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. We're saying the same thing, that it's just, but I think that it's our beliefs too, right?
I'll tell you something interesting though.
Yeah.
That Mercury that we talked about that's square Jupiter, and we're going to get some big news. The Mercury is on Donald Trump's Jupiter in
Right.
Libra. So I wonder what's going to come out of his mouth on that day. That's
Right.
interesting.
Hey, would be interesting if he suddenly switched gears and
Well, yeah.
changed personalities, right?
Well, he could because he's a Gemini,
Okay, that's
and
right.
his Uranus is also at 17 degrees.
Oh, now I wonder if something will happen to him though, health-wise.
Well,
I suddenly
that
had the thought.
could be that
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Brain fart thing. Well, we don't know, but it kind of feels like almost like a brain fart type of thing. Like something, you know, sometimes when we get things in our brain and it's expanded by Jupiter, it can,
There was all these reports that he'd had mini strokes a while back. So you never
yeah,
know.
looks,
Could be,
yeah,
could be a
who
stroke.
knows? It was just a thought that crossed my mind. We have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, I think also it's good to understand that the future has not been created. We're creating it as we go forward. So the choices and the thoughts we have now will impact
Yeah.
what's going to happen, right? So don't get locked into, oh, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. We don't know. We have the potential to glide through this very smoothly, or kind of struggle through it in the next 50 years because we're hanging on to these old ideas.
And some people
So
won't, you know, some people won't be greatly affected, and some will be majorly affected. One sure thing I think with this chart is change.
right, I think we're all going to be affected. We're just, you know, I think it's kind of to your point, some may not feel as badly about it and
Yeah.
others will. But I do think we have to think about, even like what you're talking about, in a time of disaster, there's many that do well, because they're whatever, they're peddling the things that the disaster needs or something like that. So there is no
Oh, there's carpet bag.
typical.
Yeah.
Right, but it doesn't matter because there's no typical. So what that teaches us is that we're free to create whatever we want instead of being tied into this idea that somebody else has something, so I can't have it, right?
Exactly. So yes, yeah, definitely. It's interesting.
Yeah, very fascinating. And of course, Pallas Athena at that 12 degrees,
Yeah, well, she's
having, yeah,
in
having coming,
aspect to Uranus too, then.
right, right.
Yeah.
And having coming out of her retrograde. So she's going forward, I think a lot more strategy coming forward, a lot more kind of stepping back out of that kind of morass and trying to think about something you know nothing about and just kind of stepping back, listening, kind of feeling into what's happening as opposed to trying to control. And that's kind of like, even like when you look at Trump, for instance, like there's no strategy, it's just tactics, right? I'm just going to, like, throw spaghetti at the wall or whatever, right? Just like, and we need to be strategic because we're building a new age. So what do we want going forward and how do we get there? We got to sidestep some of these clowns out there, right?
But as we've said before, they're playing their part at the moment too
Right, right,
in the whole kind of collapse, really. So
right.
yeah, interesting. Are we ready for the
Fascinating.
symbols, or do we have more?
We are. I'm just looking, is there anything else?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the one thing that does strike me is, I know we've talked about the nodes a bit, is that the nodes are 24 degrees. And I think I noticed there's a couple of sixes around Vesta 15.
Eris. Eris.
Oh, Eris 24. Is this energy, and I talked about the date being a 21, which is a 3 and 6, and September is a 9-month. This is all the emotional energy, the energy of love. And I think if we can give love to the things we're letting go of, as opposed to being angry about it, right, and resenting it, because we do have the opportunity with Mars in retrograde, and in Aries, there's a lot of fire. We have the opportunity to really burn bridges and be revengeful.
Oh yeah.
And while that may be fun, in some way, like, yeah, I can get my revenge, is it useful? So thinking about that idea of just coming from that place of love, just being so grateful for even the awful things and just going, you've given me these lessons, you've brought me here, and I'm just so grateful, and I'm just letting you go with love, right? Letting those people who have different opinions from you be who they are with love. Stop engaging with them, just move and shift and glide away, coming back to your center. Because the more you engage or worry about what they're saying or trying to convince them, the less centered you're going to be.
Yeah, I had a friend message me this morning about a mutual, mutual friend, not a mutable friend. And
Well, maybe they are mutable as well.
but she was kind of like, I think I'm going to have to unfriend and block so and so, because even though I really like him because of something or other. And I said, why don't you just unfollow him and just just give yourself a little bit of distance and friendship,
Right,
for a
right.
while. So, and she's like, oh, good idea.
Yeah, what a concept, right? And I think that's actually bringing up, that is kind of an interesting idea of seeing friendships or any of this stuff is mutable. It's all, you don't need to go to war with someone who has a different opinion with you. You don't need to kind of shove it in their faces. You can just be like, I'm just going to kind of pull away, and, and you're not lying. And if they ask you about it, you can be honest. We don't really have that much in common anymore. I don't feel like I want to hang out with you. But there's no need to kind of rub their noses in it, right? It's like, this is your choice. It's nothing. It's nothing to do with them. It's to do with yourself needing that.
When all the chaos has settled down, you might find you've got things still in common. So
Right.
that comes back to that.
Right. Or you might find you don't, and that's fine too. Like, it doesn't matter, right? It
Doesn't.
really doesn't matter. People come, people go.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. I've always learned that throughout my life. I'm just kind of like friends move on. I'm not,
Right.
yeah,
Sometimes they come back around, sometimes they don't. It's okay.
it is. All righty, the symbols. So Jen and I were a little bit like, it's 25 degrees exactly. And the symbols usually go up. So we looked at the ones for 25 and 26 Virgo, and we both feel that 26 is the correct one to use. So, Jen, do you want to read yours first?
Sure. Oops. Hold on. My page went away. All right. So this is the Virgo 26. A boy with a censer serves the priest near the altar. And so this keynote is the first stage of actual participation in the great ritual of planetary evolution. Whether we think of the ancient mysteries or of a Catholic Mass or of some still more transcendent ceremony in which great beings charged with planetary responsibilities are involved, we are dealing with a type of archetypal activity. The ritual is archetypical in that it represents, in however small a field of activity, a portion of the evolving structure of the cosmos, as the structure is understood in its sacred sense. Every such activity is performed in the presence of God. Menial as it may be, it is nevertheless, it acquires a sacred meaning. The individual is educated, that is, led out into the world of transcendent activity, the world of archetypical performance. They must learn to serve humbly and with intense attention in what as yet is beyond their spiritual understanding. They learn to perform every action super personally. They learn to practice in the presence of God.
And that kind of sums up Virgo to my mind in some ways. It's this very ritualistic, organized kind of service to something bigger than yourself. So, and bringing in the opposite Pisces, which is the transcendent or God, whatever you want to call it. So, and I think ritual, real meaningful ritual, and I know you and I have done a lot of work in this area, is missing in a lot of this life. Even in our church services and things, the ritual has become less important and less focused on. It's kind of more about the rules and the obeying, as you talked about. So, maybe develop your own little rituals.
Right. And the thing is, you can apply rituals to all kinds of things. When you get out of bed, maybe even listening, a ritual of listening, right? There's so much we can do, a ritual of being attentive to the earth.
Or my favorite morning ritual, morning pages
Right,
from the
right,
Opposite Way to help you organize your thoughts and things.
right. I give gratitude. I think that's a huge part of this, in being in gratitude for what is available to us instead of the opposite, which is miserable because we are trapped or we don't have what we want or we are not enough or whatever that is. But the opposite, right? We're opening ourselves to the abundance of what is possible, the abundance of the earth. And that is very powerful, very sacred.
I love the sentence. He must, or we must learn to serve humbly and with intense attention.
Right, very Virgo. And
Yeah, we've become so focused on, the material world, the wants, the having in our society, and we must get back to eating in restaurants and we must get back to buying and shopping and things like that. How about paring it down and focusing on what really has meaning? That's kind of what this, yeah.
Right.
Mm,
Absolutely. I think that's a big aspect of Virgo, right? Is this leanness of, using our resources wisely. And we didn't mention that we are entering the equinox. The
mm,
22nd, we have the equinox where night and day are equal.
of course. Yeah. Yeah. So, and the Chandra symbol has a very similar meaning, of course, and it's an old man counting gold coins. And at first I was a bit like, but when you read it, it makes sense. Getting your bearings, determining your limits, finding a reality fix, making sure that everything is there, checking out the manifest details over and over, coming down to earth and becoming sober and straight and clear. You are overwhelmingly convinced that there must come this cleaning up and clearing out. Sick and tired of pretense and hype, hungry to get down to basics, and somewhat hooked on the quantitative intelligence, blurring distinctions, intent upon being viable, correct, and self sufficient. If all these things are taken up with a twinkle of humour, they are digestible, but if they become self-serious and little too proper, they are deadly and sickening. You learn to throw off the attitude and to cleave to the substance of getting things right, unapologetically and steadfastly.
Mhm.
That speaks so clearly to all that we've said, about really coming down to the basics. The chop wood carry water kind of energy of, really doing what has meaning and what has purpose.
Right. And just doing the small little tasks,
Yeah.
every task as if it's a gift to God. And just, that's it. Right.
Yeah, a great way of looking at it. Everything you do, whether you go and empty the cat litter.
Right. Right. The fact that we are here in these bodies and we can do these things, and there is so much available to us we haven't tapped into. The richness of beingness, not the richness of having a bunch of things, but really paring down, selecting what is valuable to us. When we have less things, we appreciate them more.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm loving the paring down energy purpose personally, even though we still have too much stuff. But
And, it's okay. It's not a matter of you shouldn't have any comfort. I think it's fine. But
oh, I still want to pare down more. Is my
oh, right. I'm in a pare down phase myself, really trying to bring it down to essentials. If I
Yeah,
had to leave,
yeah,
I can only take so much, right?
exactly. So, Jen, how can people find you?
All right, so people can find me at jenduchene.com. That's JenDuchene. I have a Facebook group. We belong here. I do weekly videos on my YouTube channel. And I also have an upcoming free class, 3 things you need to know in order to have what you want. And that will be on September 24th. So if you're interested, you can go to my website and sign up for my email address, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram or anywhere and just let me know and I'll connect you to the group, the cocoon. And yes, or if you're interested in a reading or something and you want to get hold of me, you can email me at jen@jenduchene.com.
Cool. And my website. So I am Louise Eddington, Lou. And my website is louiseeddington.com, LouiseEddington. You can find both a page or on the home page to book astrology readings with me, or I have a membership community. There's a link for that on both of those also. I also have a Facebook group, Cosmic Owl Astrology Cafe. My Facebook page is Cosmic Owl Astrology, as is my Instagram, as is my YouTube. All likes, follows, all those things. Very appreciated because their algorithms love it.
Right.
One
Good.
thing one thing I would love to ask from people is if they own either of my books, Modern Astrology or The Complete Guide to Astrology, if they could leave me reviews on Amazon, even if they didn't buy the book from there, because the book, well, particularly the second book, is doing very well, and reviews really help their algorithms. So even if you're not a fan of Amazon, reviews on Amazon really help and really count. You could also leave reviews on Goodreads, and I think Barnes and Noble has a review place. So if you have the inclination, please, and enjoy my books, please go leave me reviews. So I think that's it. Just a reminder that we do take questions. We don't have any on this episode, so you can just Facebook message the Weirdly Magical Facebook page, or you can email weirdlymagicalpodcast@gmail.com to have your question featured on air. And our Patreon again, patreon.com/weirdly magical, if you'd like to support the podcast. And for now, I think that's everything. Have I forgotten anything, Jen? I don't think
I
so.
think so. Just thank you so much for being with us. And yes, you can certainly leave us reviews, right, on
iTunes and
iTunes.
yeah, we love reviews on all our things.
Right. We take reviews, likes, and follows, and all of those things because they're so juicy and yummy, and it just keeps all the things moving.
It does. So for now, it's goodbye from Lou.
And goodbye from Jen.